Yeah, welcome to Dryer Talk.
Next up
Yeah.
on Dryer Talk,
What's going on, everybody? It's Jamie,
and John.
and welcome to the A-To-Zed Reseller Podcast. How's it going this week, John?
Not too bad, man. Had a pretty decent week overall. I was a little bit under the weather yesterday. Took a day, but yeah, feeling better today. So ready to chat all things reselling and whatever else comes up.
Yeah, really. I mean, we've already chatted about dryers, 90s alt rock.
90s Canadian alt rock.
Yeah, there's some pretty good stuff in that category. I've actually, you don't see a lot of those bands when you're thrifting. I don't know if people hang on to those like 90s, early 2000 Canadian band T-shirts, even like bands that were like Our Lady Peace, which maybe didn't break in the US, but were huge Canadian band. It's rare to see like a Clumsy T-shirt, or even even prior to that, the Navid one, any of that stuff. I love that. I'd love to find shirts like that, but people either hang on to them or they didn't last. I'm not sure what happened there.
Yeah, I don't know. I always look, like, even when I'm not planning on really looking through the T-shirts or whatever, I mean, which is, I try to do anyway, because you never know when you're going to come across a nice valuable vintage tee or something to sell. But I typically will always at least go through my size because I'm just waiting to find, like, some kick-ass band tees. Like, I found some good ones, but yeah, I haven't seen any Our Lady Peace. There's a couple of other bands that I'd love to find, not Canadian content, of course, but I'd love to find a Silverchair tee. I'd love to find, a couple of those other Canadian bands that we chatted about briefly beforehand, which I know are probably less likely, but bands like Zucker Baby or Limb Lifter, how cool would it be to find something like that, or even Trouble Charger or something, but or I Mother Earth. But yeah, I always look, but I'm rarely successful.
Yeah, I remember in high school having the frog stomp T-shirt with the frog on it, actually, and then I had the Freak Show one as well. And that CD was weird because do you remember that album coming out? It was one of the first multimedia ones where it actually could go online with the DVD. And I thought that's where everything was headed. And then digital came, and the whole idea of that sort of multimedia things just kind of went away.
Yeah, it really died, but it was a really cool concept. I mean, like, at the time, it's okay, I can put this in my CD player and listen to music, but I can also put it in my computer and watch the videos and see interviews and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's cool.
Yeah. Apparently, I was watching this thing today about we were talking about this earlier too, about Weezer, 30 Years of the Blue album, and they were saying that they actually, on the Windows XP disc, they actually put I forget if it was Buddy Holly. It was one of the songs anyway. They put on the Windows disc in a file. It was like a music video that was hidden inside of the Windows XP software, or the startup disk. Anyway,
Like the install disc.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. That's hilarious. It probably was Buddy Holly, because I mean, that was like kind of that would be a good, like, friendly song for a wider range of audiences. But hey, do you remember, that reminds me, and I forget what like media it was, but it may have been like a Windows startup disc. Do you remember when there was like a free YouTube album or U2 album in something? It was either on a Windows disc or on something. And I just remember people being like, "Hey, thanks, I didn't want the free U2. Can we get this without the U2 album?"
Yeah,
I wish I could remember the details.
Yeah, I fall in that category myself. I know U2 is one of the biggest bands in the world. They're not for me. I don't know what it is about them. It's just not my cup of tea.
There are two songs by U2 that I can think of off the top of my head that I actually really like, and everything else to me is complete garbage. But I'll give them credit where it's due. I think it's the Batman Forever soundtrack. They have a really dark, kind of grungy sounding song. I think it's like Push Me, Pull Me, something or other. But it's like, it's a really cool, like, grungy sounding song from the 90s. I'll give them credit on that one. I love that song. And then they've got that other, like, give me a moment. No, it's eluding me. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like one of their like kind of sunnier, poppier songs from the early 2000s. Maybe it's like,
Okay.
"Baby's got blue skies up ahead." Da, da, da. I don't know. Anyway,
I can't think of what that would be. Yeah, I don't know.
the sweetest thing. The
Oh,
sweetest.
okay. Yeah.
Whoa, whoa, the sweetest thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that song. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of bands out there that, rub you the wrong way, but there's still that one song that breaks through and you're like, I don't want to like you, but that's a good one.
Hey, that's me, Nickelback, and their first album.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the first one, like Curb, or was it Curb or The State? Whatever one was like their actual first one that was almost even metal sounding before they went Silver Side Up.
Yeah, before they infused the pop, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised how well Nickelback stuff does. I just recently picked up a Nickelback, I think it's called Rolling or whatever their last tour was. It was with the van. And it's a t-shirt. It's a 2022, 2023 t-shirt. I picked it up to throw it in my antique booth, and it didn't sell. I'm like, okay, I'll just bring it home, throw it online. It probably could have sat there longer and sold. Like, I'm impatient is the problem. After a month, I'm like, okay, nobody wants this. Fine, I'll sell it on the internet. That's fine. But yeah, it still sells for like 50 or 60 bucks. I was surprised. But then when you start going to concerts nowadays, a hoodie's going to cost. The last concert I went to, I paid $120 US, I think, or something like that for like a hoodie. I'm like, what? I really wanted it. So for me, it was worth it. But I guess that makes sense why they would still, a new hoodie like that might still hold their value because they're so expensive now when you go to these places.
Yeah, it's still a bargain. Yeah, it's funny. I'm thinking about Nickelback more now, and I think that they've had the success they've had because I think they've really been able to appeal to a large U.S. market because they do have that. It's not a country sound, but it's a very, it's that kind of prairie rock, like Western sound, and that goes a long way with a large audience in the US, I think. So I'm not really trying to razz them. I know it's like, it's cool to hate on Nickelback. It's the whole thing, but I don't know. I can do it because I was a fan of their very, very early original stuff. And was growing up with that as a teen. And then I just noticed a different direction. So,
yeah, I think I've seen Nickelback live 2 times, and both times were just because I was at festivals where they were there.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I hear they put on a great show though.
Put on a good show. Yeah, I watched, I enjoyed it, but I'm definitely wouldn't go seek out Nickelback or anything like that. But, yeah. How?
Hey, just disclaimer. No offense to any great Nickelback fans in there. Hope you don't leave the podcast as a result of our outing of them today. But anyway, stay tuned for more dryer talk and other things.
Yeah. It's gonna get real heated with the dryer talk. Who's got dryer? Yeah. How have your sales been this week? Good though. Like mine. I gotta tell you, mine have been much better than they have been recently. But I think I have the reason why. But how have yours been?
Everything completely died.
Okay.
And I think that it was temporary. It may have been, just end of school year, beginning of summer, people are just spending money on other things. Sales, they've picked up a little bit, but I mean, it's still a significant difference. It's a very noticeable drop, but I mean, there's still those few bread and butter items that are selling, those $20, $25 items that are selling. I still get that occasional $50, $60, $70 sale. And I mean, as long as it's kind of flowing and then eventually kind of comes back around, it's not too bad. But yeah, I mean, I'd say the last 2 or 3 weeks has been a definite noticeable drop, but not Armageddon levels anyway.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. And I think I was feeling a lot of that squeeze, I would say recently. And I think what's changed is I think when I edited my last yard sale video, I think I'm into week 5 of yard sales in this area, which means I'm listing a lot more video games, hard goods, maybe collectibles or toys, things that I'm finding at garage sales. Those things are selling much faster than clothing. Clothing has just been slower for me. And I think that's what's really turned my sales around, my numbers around recently anyways, that the things that I'm listing right now are selling a lot faster. And then I've actually focused a little less on clothing while I've been sourcing, or at least I've been like looking at what it is to see if it's like something I think will sell faster for better money. I'm picking it up and I'm leaving a lot of the longer tail stuff. And I know I'll go back to that because, you know, yard sale season is only so long here. When you're sourcing in just thrift stores, I can't find the same quality or quantity of hard good items when I'm just looking out in the wild like that. So for me, that's been a big pick me up, just because I'm infusing all these different things back into my store, and it's not just clothing. And I think that's really helped recently.
Yeah, it's diversifying. Oh, that's something we've talked about before. You know, you're diversifying the kind of stuff that you're selling, so you're getting new eyes or maybe just different eyes on your store. And maybe while they're there, maybe they're like, oh wait, I came here for cameras, but this guy's got this really cool shirt. Like, you never know. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to do as much yard selling and stuff like that here. You know, I typically do try to do that in the summer, and that was the plan for this year. But we've had some really bad weather on weekends. It's like, of course, I work Monday to Friday. The weekends get here and torrential downpour. So there's been a few sales where, you know, it's just been canceled or postponed. And I had made a plan on a Friday evening. I'm going to go. This is my route for tomorrow. And then all of a sudden, you know, I'd see the cancellations pop up and it's like, son of a. So, you know, there's been some of that, but you know, at the same time, I am finding the occasional really good item. So I'm putting that in, and then, you know, maybe that item's selling for $50, $70, $100. And it's just, it's keeping the numbers up to a respectable level, even though it's obviously nowhere where I'd like it to be. But
yeah, but I've noticed when I'm watching like your videos, your what sold videos the last couple of months, I think because you've infused so much of your personal games that you've been trying to get rid of yourself.
mm-hmm.
I know I've seen you say a few times in your videos, like, you know, if it wasn't for this big bundle I sold of games, you know, this week would have been a lot more bleak. And so, I mean, I think you are still infusing new stuff. It's just not stuff you're sourcing. It's just coming from your personal collection, right?
Well, yeah, and I mean, I'm happy to make that sale just as happy as I am to make some kind of a reselling sale, like, you know, because at the end of the day, it's still money in my pocket, and, you know, like this stuff originally had a buy cost, but I mean, at this point, it doesn't matter. So yeah, I mean, look, man, if I can sell off stuff I'm not using that's just collecting dust, and then pay down some debts, and all of a sudden I'm spending hundreds of dollars less every month paying off interest. Well, anything I want to buy back later on, I can easily do it too. So I'm not regretting anything that I'm selling off. I know I've got one buddy of mine who's been like, oh man, I can't believe you're selling your N64 stuff, or I can't believe you sold your GameCube games, or blah, blah, blah. It's like, what are you doing, man? Because he's a big collector like me. Yeah. And it's like, well, the reality is it's just sitting there. It's collecting dust. I don't have time for video games. You know, I play a little bit, not nearly as much as I'd like to, but would I rather have several $100s in my pocket? Of course I would.
Yeah. I'm kind of always in that mindset too, because I think, especially about the idea of...
I just dropped my coaster. It got stuck to my... This video is not brought to you by Zevia.
Yeah. I've always been in the mindset of getting rid of stuff I'm not currently using, and if I want to buy it back, chances are I'm going to buy it back secondhand. Like, so you know, I've always had that mindset where I'm okay with just getting rid of stuff that's just sitting around, honestly. Sometimes I wish I was even better at it, because, you know, you wind up like, I've been tripping over. A good example is I bought with the best intentions an AI Renfro or Ren whatever exercise bike. Okay, I was gonna ride that, get into doing that, and it's just sat there. I was listing a bunch of stuff on Marketplace yesterday. I actually went as far as taking pictures of it, and then I'm like, I don't know if I want to get rid of this or not, because my plan is maybe if I clean this room out after I move stuff to the shed, maybe I'll throw it in here and actually use it. Currently, it's just sort of sitting in an awkward place that we trip over on a regular basis. We don't have a lot of storage in this house, so, you know, that's something for me, like, where I'm like, I can just get rid of it. I bought it secondhand. I could probably buy it back for the same amount of money, if not even less, if I even care. I mean, I don't care currently because it's nice inside. I can ride an actual bicycle if I want to.
Right.
But, you know, when it becomes winter and you kind of want to do that, or you feel like you want to, you know, do something healthy or exercise or whatever, you know, you're not going to go. I don't want to go outside in the snow and do it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, and you know, I'm the same way. Like when I when I was building this video game collection, I mean, I wasn't going out and paying market value for this stuff. It's not like I built a say $20,000 collection and spent $20,000. It was like, no, I bought this stuff for a fraction of what it's worth. So even if I am clearing some of it out and giving a little bit of a deal and stuff and not getting full market value, I mean, I'm still actually making money on this, you know, a couple years later or a few years later or something. And, you know, a lot of times what I've done in the past is if I see a bundle or a lot that maybe there's 2 or 3 things in it that I want for myself and it's a good price, I'll just buy it, keep those couple of things, sell the rest of it off, still make money or break even. But now I've added those 2 really nice things to my collection for free or really low cost, or maybe even made money. So yeah, I've always had like a thrifty mentality, and that's why I don't really worry about selling something off and thinking I'll regret it, because I mean, I'll just thrift it again later. Like I'll attract that back into my life for cheap.
Yeah, for sure. I was thinking about this today too, and I don't know, do you do any so I don't typically try to use credit cards a lot if I don't plan on paying it off. So I do have 2 different cards that are reward cards. My main card is a PC Financial MasterCard, and I get PC points, which you can use towards buying groceries for free, or you can save them up and use them at a place like Shoppers Drug Mart, and they have events where you can like double up your points, and all of a sudden you spend $120 in points and you get like $350 in value. However, you can buy things like video games, controllers, consoles. You can, like I said, you can buy groceries with that money. You can do whatever you want with it. In the past, we've always used it for Christmas and got like stocking stuffers and video games and stuff like that. But that's also in my last video, or the next video to come out on my channel, but it will already be out by the time this is on here. I sold a couple of Xbox One controllers that were mine, that I gave my console to my nephew because his broke, but I kept the controllers because I knew he had controllers, and my one controller was only taken out of the box. And when I looked, I never even put batteries in it. The batteries were still sealed, not broken in there. So, but I got those for next to free, because you have to pay the taxes on those when you get points like that, right? But that would be a good strategy for somebody when those events come on, to go and buy a bunch of controllers or a bunch of video games, and you turn those points, which can only be used in store, into physical money if you can resell those items, you know.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I've done that. So I've got 2 cards that I use specifically for getting free stuff. And it's usually free stuff, you know, for myself, but I have used it for with that purpose in mind before as well. But yeah, I've got the PC card as well, and I mean, it doesn't take long for those to rack up, and I'm checking out and I'm like, oh cool, I get $20 I can use. I mean, you know, it's another way to thrift and save some money. We all know groceries aren't cheap, so anytime they're going to give you free money, like, you know, take it. The other one that I use a lot, and I do use it quite a bit for other purchases because I find the money just adds up, is the Canadian Tire MasterCard. Now, I mean, you got to be careful because obviously these cards, I mean, they're going to have a high interest rate. You got to be sure to be paying them down or paying them off or something. Whatever you gain in points can easily be lost in interest charges if you're not paying attention, right? But let's say, you know, I've got an opportunity to buy something and maybe they've got 150 bonus points and then 30 times your points at Canadian Tire, and something's on sale or whatever. Well, like, I've done it before where I've gone in just to get like an oil change and, you know, maybe get my winter tires put on or something like that. And so I'll go in, I'll get it done there, and they've got an event on. You spend so much, you get all these extra points. So I'll go around to like their clearance bins or whatever else, buy some like, you know, 18-volt battery chargers or just random stuff that's already down, you know, clearance price. And then I'll get all my free money, which basically pays for whatever I need to buy a Canadian Tire the next month or whatever. And then go and sell those battery chargers or whatever else on eBay. And at the end of it all, you know, I've gotten my tire change and my oil change for free. I've made a couple of decent sales on eBay, and I've got some Canadian Tire money to go buy a deck box or something, you know, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm always working those angles and always paying attention to that. But again, you do have to pay that off, so you're not getting dinged interest. But
Yeah, I know with my PC financial card, I use that strictly for reselling. So all of my shipping goes through there I don't because I don't buy labels through eBay, right? I directly have to pay for. Actually, you have to. Yeah, I have to buy credits through Stallion Express. So $50 is worth $50, right?
gotcha.
So all my shipping goes through there. All my shipping supplies go through there. When I go to the thrift store, I use that card. And then when I get my eBay payout, the very first thing I do, pay off the balance on the credit card. All the money I have left can go forward into whatever else it needs to go into. But yeah, definitely pay that one off first because, yeah, the interest is pretty high on it if you let it go. But it is a great way to collect points on things you're going to spend money on anyway. And the other one I use is TD. My TD credit card has points as well, but we rack those up throughout the year and then use them through Expedia to get like hotel rooms and stuff for free.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But there's so many good opportunities out there. But like you said, if you have, when you use it, you have to have the intention that you have the money to pay it off, or know that you're going to pay it off within a certain window, because
right,
too dangerous. Credit cards can be too dangerous otherwise.
Well, hey man, that's my biggest priority right now is paying them down. You know, no regrets to help me get in my house and furnish it and stuff. But I've definitely racked some up in the last couple of years, so I'm paying it down now. But yeah, so my setup, obviously, like buying my shipping and stuff, is different because I just do it right through eBay. So of course that just comes out of what would be paid out to me. So I don't have that opportunity to use a credit card to rack, you know, to get the points that way. But that is a good idea. That makes sense. But yeah, when it's time to buy more shipping supplies and stuff, I always put it on, you know, one of those cards, whichever one is going to give me the most points or the best rewards. And then just transfer it over. Now, when I was going out thrifting before, I used to put it on one of my cards and then just transfer, like, you know, just pay the money right away. But I just found, for me personally, it was way too easy to get disorganized and lose track of how much I was spending or how much I really had allocated, since I am just kind of doing this part-time and taking half of my income from it and allocating that to new inventory and the rest is going towards debt. I really needed to be careful that I wasn't overspending. So now I just created a new bank account where it's just like, okay, so when I go thrifting, it just comes out of that bank account. So yeah, I'm kind of losing out on some potential points, or maybe I could still use a card and then pay it out of that account. But
yeah,
if I start complicating things, I'm going to just mess something up. So
yeah, well, just to let you know, you maybe know this anyway, but PC Financial offers a free bank account with 0 fees, and you still collect money on all your purchases. So you could, you'd have to switch bank accounts, which might be annoying at this point, but you could still get the points, is all I'm saying, without having to pay any extra service fees, or you'd have to do a lot of little stuff like change your payout to that card and bank.
Right.
It'd be annoying, but it's still possible.
It's something to think about. This video brought to you by PC.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, well, you know what? I don't mind showing them a little bit. You know, obviously they're not giving us anything, but they've provided me for like 4 or 5 Christmases in a row. Plenty of other people. It's I think you should be taking advantage of those things if you can.
No, for sure.
They're preying on the irresponsible person who's not going to pay it off to make money. So you might as well just play the game and take advantage of what you can get there, I think.
No, exactly. And I mean, you know, we do the same thing. Like December comes around, we've always, you know, we save up quite a bit of our points. So like December, we want to buy extra groceries or extra snacks and junk food and whatever else. I mean, you know, it'd be nothing for us to go in and use $100 or $150 worth of points and just get all that stuff for free. And yeah, I mean, it's the same way with, like, you know, obviously I was joking around, but like, you know, with things that I actually believe in and I trust and I think are a good idea. Yeah, I mean, I'll put the word out there, and I'll do it right now. It's like people say all the time to me, "Oh yeah, you're only promoting Posh Sidekick because you're an affiliate or whatever." It's like, well, no. I mean, I was using it for a year and paying for that service before, I ever got into a position where I was like an ambassador for their brand. I mean, it's something I believe in. So yeah, I'll plug them, and they don't have to be paying me to do it. Like I'd plug them anyway, right?
Yeah, for sure. I'm the same way. Obviously, we both have the same program through Sidekick, but I talk about Stallion Express all the
Yeah.
time. I haven't got a dime from them. I do have a referral code that anybody can get. That's just like you give them your referral code that's you get from just their website, but it's not like I have like some sort of deal with them or something like that. I just think if it's available in your area, or if Chit Chats is available in your area, it's going to save you a ton of money. It's just not available all over Canada, unfortunately.
Yeah, tell me about it. That reminds me, I had a YouTube comment recently from somebody in the US they had watched my shipping video. I was talking about shipping in Canada, in early 2023. So obviously some of that info has kind of changed a little bit, and even how I do things has changed a little bit. But they're like, oh wow, can't you at least like do this, or set up regional things and blah blah blah. I'm like, dude, you just don't know. Like, you have no idea. It's just so different, even within different areas of Canada. What you're going to pay for, even from Canada Post, but then having the other options available, like different shippers. Like, you get yourself out in rural Nova Scotia where I am, you have basically two options, which is Canada Post, or maybe you've got UPS or someone who takes UPS packages near you, and maybe you save a little bit by doing that. Maybe you check, net parcel or whatever else. But like, definitely not sending something $5 with Uni or going to Stallion Express. Like, that $5 package is costing me $23. So, but it's interesting how even with that significant disadvantage, there's still an opportunity for everybody. I mean, I'm still making good money and doing my thing. It's just some things won't make sense. I'm not going to sell a lot of VHS, but I'm still going to sell a lot of clothing, or I'm still going to sell, a lot of other things, video games or whatever, because, people will pay the shipping. I think Chris talks about that on his channel a lot. I forget his channel name. Chris something Treasures, is it? Or
yeah, it's Chris's Treasure Chest. Yeah.
Yeah. But he talks about it, and I agree with him. It's like, people will pay the shipping if they want something, but it doesn't mean there's not disadvantages. But even with disadvantages in certain areas, I mean, you can still find what works for you.
For sure. And that probably makes me a little bit more lazy, because sometimes I'll pick stuff up that I know maybe isn't the best thing ever. But when I'm like, when I factor everything in, I'm like, I'm still going to make okay money on this.
Yeah, you can still sell it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that, like I said, it can be an advantage and it can be a disadvantage, because sometimes it lets me be a little bit more lazier than I should be, which is not a really good habit to get into, but it kind of the way it goes sometimes. So did you have a particular sale of the week this week?
I didn't really have a particular sale of the week. Well, I mean, that's not true. I got a couple of things that sold that made me some decent money that really did help to save the week and stuff. But it was kind of split into two, but whatever. I'll talk about it anyway. There was an N64, and I don't know, maybe I even talked about it last week, because my weeks are starting to blur together because I don't have a lot of great weeks lately. But I did sell recently an N64 with a few games that had come with something that I purchased off of Poshmark using my credits. So that sold, made some decent money. But then there was also an expansion pack that came in that, and I parted it out and sold it separately to somebody local on Facebook Marketplace for $60. So, I mean, really it's not huge money or anything, but it's kind of just a little tip or a trick that I'd mention to anybody is, if you don't really know Nintendo 64 stuff, or maybe you're just kind of new to it, I mean, it is worth having a couple of the standard little black jumper packs kicking around that you can usually get for like $10, at a little pawn shop or video game store or something, or even online. Have a couple spares of those around, so that if you buy an N64 and it has that red expansion pack in that front port, you can pop that out, put the regular one in, and extract another $60 of value or so by selling that expansion pack separate. So, that's what I did. So it's kind of like a sale of the week, just by having that little I mean, it's not really insider knowledge. Anybody who knows N64s kind of knows that, but like for your average reseller, it's just like, cool, video game console, what's this N64 worth? Check inside that port. It could be an extra 50, 60 bucks.
Yeah. I thought there for a minute you truly did forget about that was your last week's one, but then
Was it? Okay.
well, the N64 was, but not the jumper pack.
Oh, okay.
The jumper pack thing confuses me a little bit. So I'm sure when it was out, it made sense to me, and I knew, and I could have told you all about it. I know I sold an N64 probably last year, and I think I listed it wrong, and I said I had the black one, whatever it was, but it really had the red one in it. And the guy seen it in the pictures. He knew what he was getting, and he's like, "Oh, I thought this was supposed to have this other one." And I'm like, "No."
Okay.
So I kind of got burned on that a little bit. I think I had to give like a partial discount or something silly like that. But
Gotcha.
yeah, I forget what is the difference between the two.
So the difference. So the standard one, which is just called the jumper pack, all that really does is there's a port in there. It's a little memory, like a RAM port. I think the N64 came with like 4 megabytes of RAM or something. I mean, yeah, you know, we're talking, yeah, very, very small, just old tech, right? And the jumper pack basically just, as the name kind of indicates, it just jumps, it just connects that port so that whatever, it works and it does what it does. But the expansion pack provides an extra 4 or 8 megabytes of RAM, random access memory, so that games can either have additional features, better graphics modes, maybe performs a little better, isn't as choppy. And there's actually a couple of games that you need it to play. So Donkey Kong 64 needs the expansion pack, the red boosted expansion pack to play, and also Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask requires it to play. Okay. There's one other game. I think it's Perfect Dark, the sequel to GoldenEye, the shooter. So I don't know which way it is. I think if you have the regular pack, you can still play the campaign or maybe some of the campaign, or maybe only the multiplayer, but having the expansion pack either unlocks the campaign or the full campaign or something. So it's one of those like half ones. But for most games, some games it doesn't do anything because there's literally nothing built in. They came out before that was even part of the process. But a lot of games will have better graphics or like mode, things you can go in and toggle, and yeah, it just boosts performance though for the most part and allows you to play those 2 games.
Yeah, I remember after you said that, I remember that you had to have it for Donkey Kong for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I don't know. I couldn't for the life of me remember. I was like, I think when I listed mine, like I said, this was beginning maybe of last year, I would just sort of listed it based off of a comp and then never, you don't read everything. That's, lesson learned, right? That's what can happen. You have to make sure that when you list something, it's correct to what's actually what you're listing, not what somebody listed prior.
Exactly. No, you see that red one in there, and there are third-party ones as well that look a little different or could be different colors. But like, if you see that red one in there, it's worth popping that out and putting a standard little black one in there, because you've just earned yourself another 50, 60 bucks. Unless you want to sell it together, but like I always part them out because you make more money that way.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think for me, I was kind of on the fence for a sale of the week because I had a really quick sale, and then I had one that's been like the end of something that I've had for a long time. So the really quick sale was the Nintendo Wii that I picked up at the garage sale. I sold it in a bundle for $75, and then I've got other pieces of it that I'm gonna part out. So, I paid $60 for everything. So it's not like I made a bunch of money on that, but that's all my money back. And then, I sell the rest of it, and that's where my actual profit's going to be.
Yep.
But the one that I was happy about was I bought all of these Sirius XM boom boxes last year sometime. And I knew it was going to be a long tail thing, but I thought potentially this past Christmas would be like the end of them. This past week was the end of them. It took a little longer than expected. The price slowly decreased. This last one sold for $75. You know, I've been in the profit for a long time. So every time I sell one at this point, it was like just profit. Still have, I think, 2 of the little receivers left that go in it because it's just the boom box and then the little receiver that pops in, like the dock part is separate. I still got 2 of those left, I think. But okay. I was happy with that. That's sort of like a long tail thing where you buy a whole bunch of the same thing and you just wait it out. They're all going to sell. They're all going to sell eventually. Mm-hmm. You have to be patient. And ship packing that last one up the other day was like, yeah, they all sold. I'm not, you know, I didn't have to give them away. I didn't have to donate them back to Goodwill. You know, it's just a good feeling, I think, you know, when you kind of expected that to happen and when it actually all comes together and you finally sell the last one. This is a good thing.
Well, it's validation, right? It means you got it right. You know,
yeah,
you didn't mess up. Like that was a good buy. You know, maybe it took a little longer than expected, but I mean, if you were in the profit a while ago and now the last one sold, it's twofold. It's like, okay, number one, that validates the fact that I knew what I was doing. That was a good buy, but then also, cool, now I don't have to even look at these anymore. I can move on to the next thing. So that's awesome. I remember seeing that video. Yeah, that was probably a good year ago. Didn't you pay something like $20 or $30 each and expecting to get like a couple $100 or maybe $150 each or something?
So I think I'd have to go back and watch, but I do remember they had the boom box and then they had the receiver taped to the boom box. Okay. It was all one price. And it might have been like, I'm going to say between $35 to $50 together. And I think I assumed that the little receiver head would pay for the other part. And it basically did. Like, I think when I started selling the boom boxes, they were selling at like $130. And like I said, this last one sold for $75. But there was a good combination. And I think I probably got 5 or 6 of them. I forget exactly how many. I'd have to go back and watch the video.
Yeah.
My memory is bad on the things that I bought last week. So when I'm trying to think of things like that, I remember buying that because it was a lot of money to spend at once. And it's really weird to walk into a Goodwill and then have a whole stack of brand new in box boom boxes. It's like, why are these here? And instead of asking that question, I just started throwing them in my cart and said, well, I'm going to buy these.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's it. I mean, it is a lot of money to put up front for something, but I mean, it's great when it works out. And I mean, there's been a few times where, you know, you see something and it's like, man, they got a bunch of these. I should just get them all. And I've done that before with Boston Marathon running shirts. You know, I go into my local thrift store and they've got, for whatever reason, must just be overstock and they just never sold or whatever, but they've got 13 2022 new with tags men's XL Boston Marathon running shirts. And it's like, sweet. I mean, anybody who ran Boston and didn't get a shirt or maybe wants another one or something can buy one from me. I'll buy them for $5, put them on eBay for 30 or 35. And so I've done that a couple times actually, especially where like all the clothing inventory I get from that chain comes from the New England area. I do find a lot of Boston stuff and Boston Marathon jackets and shirts and stuff. So it's happened a couple times and it's always nice. Like when you're just like, oh man, here's this pile of money. Sure, it's a lot to put up front because you know it's going to take a while, but that last one sells and it's like, so sweet. So sweet.
Yeah, it's just a little bit rewarding, right? They're all finally gone. Because it is like, I wouldn't say it's overwhelming, but when you do have a bunch of the same thing and they're not moving. Like I had bought, another thing I bought like this, these weren't new, but I one time got all these Blue Jays giveaways. They're Jackie Robinson t-shirts from a couple of years ago. And I found, I don't know, 4 or 5 in one store. And I knew they're not going to sell like bobbleheads. They're not $100 things, but they always sell for like $20, $30 somewhere in there. The older they are, the less valuable they are. But yeah, I bought them all. And then you're sitting there waiting. It's like, when are these going to sell? Every time you look, it's like, oh, they're still all here.
Yeah.
Then one sells and then another one sells. And before you know it, you're like, I don't have any of these left. That's awesome.
Yeah. That was like even just those 2 Dave Steve bobbleheads that I got at Value Village that time. I mean, they were I think that I put up almost $50 a piece for them, but I knew they were just kind of rare enough. I mean, they were only from like 2015 or whatever, but they were celebrating that 25 or 30 years since his no-hitter or whatever it was. So it was very limited edition, good collectible. But even just buying 2 of them, it was like, oh no, I mean, this is a lot of money to put up. But then that first one sells, you've already got your money back. And then it's like, okay, cool. You can just relax. Once you hit that profit zone and you're just like, okay, I'm in the good now. I got my money back, made a little bit of money. And now the rest of these are going to earn me the money. It's great. I wish everything could be like that. I wish I could just buy 100 of the same thing one week, list that, the next week go out, buy 100 of another thing that's going to sell. Like, wouldn't that be ideal if you could just do that and never have to worry about all these various listings? You could have like 20 listings on eBay,
Yeah.
just multi-quantity listings.
I mean, that'd be a good wholesale model, right? You just have to find the right things and the right supplier, but that's not easy to do. Otherwise, there'd be a lot of
no. Well, yeah, because that kind of stuff's going to be like cheap stuff or common stuff. Somehow, if you could find like 100 brand new of something that's actually desirable and valuable,
yeah,
these are pipe dreams.
A good example of that, and how private people are about it is, I don't know if you have or ever did watch Rally Roots, but they only talk about their reselling channel that's clothing that's doing the same thing that we do. They have another eBay store that they do not talk publicly about. I don't even think they'll tell you what it's called, but it's wholesale. And I know one of the things they sell, I think, are those like cappuccino machines and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's their bread and butter. I think that's where their real money comes from. And they don't talk about it because probably whatever relationship they have isn't something they want to share with other people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, hey, that makes sense. If you get an in like that where you can make good money off of something like that, I mean, you don't want to jeopardize that. I mean, I'm all about sharing and I'm all about talking about tips and tricks, and I want everybody to get a piece of pie. But I mean, look, if I got a golden goose like that, I'm not handing out golden eggs. I mean, sorry guys, I'm keeping that to myself.
Yeah, I mean, that only makes sense. I wanted to mention this too. So when you were talking about bobbleheads, I had to show some restraint this week. And not that I think it would be a bad buy. I just didn't really want to spend the money right now because I'm spending a lot of money right now sourcing in other ways. And then on the shed build right now, I'm spending more money than I care to. But somebody had listed on Marketplace. There was probably, if I can find the listing, I'll throw it up on screen when I edit. There was probably about 20 Blue Jays bobbleheads ranging from like last year up until maybe about 5 to 8 years ago, all brand new in box, and then probably another 30 of them open just on the table. They were asking $500 for the lot of them. And when I was looking at them, I'm like, all the brand new Blue Jays ones in box probably would get you your 500 plus back easily. The open ones, I wasn't even really sure what I was looking at because, sometimes it's hard to tell if they're not in the box exactly. They all start to look the same because they're whatever.
Yeah, figures, yeah.
I'm like $500, like, but that would be another thing that would probably, because they're not like the new hot thing, they probably would sell for good money over time. You'd be putting $500 out and just kind of waiting to get that back.
Yeah. So I mean, it probably was a good buy, but these things are always situational. Like you say, you're spending money on inventory. I know that shed didn't come dirt cheap. Like, you're not out $20 buying a shed and insulating it and all the rest, like you've been showing. I mean, that's, there's some money down. So, I mean, it's all situational. It all makes sense. And so in times like that, I'd probably do the same. Even if it was a good sale, I'm going to be looking at, hey, here's my opportunity right now that makes sense. I'm going to buy stuff that moves a little quicker, stuff maybe that I know is going to, earn a little bit more money, but maybe if it does take like a month or something, that's fine. But I might not be looking at those 6 month to a year to 2 year kind of items. Like it's just not the right timing for it.
Yeah, it's not. That is the sort of stuff that I'd kind of like to lean towards once I have more space, because I like bulk buys just because I guess once again, maybe it's just because a big part of me is lazy. I think if I can get a whole bunch of stuff at once that's good for a good price, and it's, you know what I mean? It takes a lot of the sourcing is fun. It's definitely the funnest part about reselling, but it can also be a grind and
Oh yeah.
like if you're out trying to source and trying to fulfill whatever numbers you're trying to keep up with, you know, it's on the back of your head. Like, oh, I need this many items this week. So, or otherwise, what? I just don't put up the numbers I want, or I have to go in and manipulate like listings, delist, relist. I don't really want to do that. I do want to do that, but I want to do that to help my store. I don't want to do that in place of listing.
Exactly. No, and it really becomes a question. You get in this dilemma of, okay, so my goal is to list, you know, I'm just pulling a number out of the hat here. Let's say it's 10 items a day. So, and so that means I need to go out this weekend and source 100 items, whatever, right? Because I'm planning to be ahead for 10 days. If that's the case, so if you get out there and you're on pace for like only picking up maybe 70 items, because, you know, man, that's slimmer pickings today. Do you buy 30 things that maybe aren't that great, but you're trying to get certain listing numbers? So you start making worse buys just to hit some arbitrary goal you've set for yourself. Or do you decrease it down and say, okay, well, hey, for this next 10 days, I'm listing 7 items a day because that's all I could get. So you get in this really kind of dilemma sometimes. And I find myself compromising a little bit of quality to hit quantity, but I try not to do it too much, because like if I sell 7 good items and I make my profit margin on that, I'm going to be better off than selling 10 items, but 3 of them maybe I just barely broke even on. And I've spent all that money or all that time photographing, listing, packing, putting it somewhere organized, like just all the nonsense that goes along with actually processing an order before it ever becomes an order. It's like, do I want to do that 3 times for just about nothing? So yeah, maybe I'll pick up like something that's a little bit borderline, but you got to be careful, man. Like it's easy to cross that line and just give yourself work because you want to do that much work.
Yeah, I think for me, what can blur the line sometimes is things that I'll pick up at the Goodwill bins, and I'm buying it so cheap that there is profit there and it is worth my time. But then while I'll be out in a thrift store, sometimes I'll find myself looking at those items that I would pick up at the bins, and then I have to almost stop myself and be like, I can't pay that. Sounds crazy. I can't pay that kind of money. I can't pay $5 for a t-shirt. What are you, crazy? Well, yeah, because it's not worth like only 15. Like you can't buy it for $5, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, it's easier when you're spending $1 or $2 per item. I mean, clearly you can then, there's really not much risk. You know, even if you do end up sitting on it a while, it's not a big deal. But yeah, I mean, you can't be spending $5 and selling for 15. I mean, now I've bought things for $5 that have not sold, and now I'm selling it for 15, and I'm happy to get my money back and maybe even have earned $2 or $3, but that's sure not what I aim for. Like, that's not my goal.
Let us know down in the comments, what do you think of this new format? I mean, you're getting some dryer talk, you're getting some Canadian alt 90s content here. You know, where else are you going to find that kind of diversity? And then plus, we also do get into some reselling content. After it all, it is the Eh-To-Zed Reseller Podcast. If you guys like videos like this, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing for more content, and we will see you soon.